Hello and welcome to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Chris and welcome to my team update for round 7 going into round 8 now. So getting into the thick of things now. I do apologise first of all for the audio quality. I don't have my mic set up with me. I'm actually in Sydney at the Sydney Design Build Expo down here. So I'm here for the whole week. So this is the only chance you're going to get me. I also don't have lighting or any of my original equipment. So this is it. So I do apologize in advance. I hope that you still enjoy the video regardless. Like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. Things are going crazy on the YouTube side of things, so we're really happy with that and how things are progressing. But this week, guys, I hit probably my best rank in a while. I think I hovered last year. I think the highest I got was 500 or 600 rank. And this year, topping out this week at 280 with a score of 2,485. So, having a good week and a bit of a good run. I had Ben asked me today. He said, what have you done to your team differently this year that you didn't do in the last year? And I think, if I'm to be honest, I just committed to the process really early of making good, quick trade decisions. And he said, trading out Martin and Young, which is what he did. And look, obviously there's a difference between just trading people out for the sake of it because you like other people or chasing role or points or whatever it may be. With my early trades that I got off certain people, I generally gave them at least that first 2 weeks to prove themselves to me. So I wasn't jumping off Martin off of his 64 because the only reason that was a 64 was that he used the ball really badly. So the role was still there, still getting a lot of appeal, blah, blah. Young was a little bit different. I gave him 2 weeks, 2 back-to-back bad scores. And a lot of it was use, but I also had a need in order to get off Young. And so both of those are probably holds at the end of the day. I don't think it's really hurt me too much because at the end of the day, the difference between holding, say, a Martin versus a Young is that Martin is kind of a no-brainer top 6 pick now, whereas Young's still sort of borderline top 10, and a very big difference. I actually have 5 of the 7 top defenders at the moment, which is pretty cool. And that's what I did, jumping on Powell early, jumping on guys like Touk, who was obviously really good this week. Just making good, quick decisions. Getting off Grundy when I did was bad, but then good this week. And making the right calls with rookies. And that's really the only difference. It's very, very minimal margins. It's so tight at the top. I reckon it's top 10 to 15,000 places are all pretty tight. But given this rank, I'm actually only 300 points behind first place now at the moment. So I think it's it might even be a little bit less than that. So even right at the top, it's really, really close. And I gained 100 points on the top position just this week gone. So definitely manageable for me to get into the top 100, which would be amazing. And definitely manageable from at this point in the season to even take out the whole thing if everything was to go well from here on out. So not saying that I'm shoe-in or my team's that good or anything like that. It's just projecting that out over how many rounds are left. It isn't that much to catch up to the top places. So I'll go through a little bit about my team. Hold on one second. I'm just going to I'll quickly undo what I've done. Yay. So that we can go through the team. Wow. All right. So obviously having a unique pick like Yo has really helped. I did get asked today if people thought it was worthwhile getting on Yo, and I don't think you can do that. That's a bit silly in my opinion. You're trading in the injury risk, and I got him on board knowing the injury risk, but this sort of output I was not anywhere near thinking he could deliver. I was thinking best case scenario would be a 105 average for the first 6 or 7 rounds. Hopefully it gets me through those initial buys and then I can flip him to anyone that I want. That was my original plan. Turns out that he's now put himself firmly, I think it's a D3. So it's Ryan, Sheasel, and him. So not a bad little run. Sheasel was flipped back into midfield and in the last quarter this week, so that was a bit interesting. So we'll have to monitor how that goes and how that affects his average moving forward. Dacos was really, really good in the second half of this game. There's a video going around online of me just absolutely losing my shit in the last quarter when Elliott dropped that mark that probably would have won us the game. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Nick Martin was brilliant, but for 3 quarters, I thought he had his most impactful game to date per disposal. Was really good in defence and even got a few clearances. And then when he went forward, he was really impactful. Kicked a goal, got a goal assist, and he was. I didn't think Merritt was best on ground. I thought the two most impactful players on the ground were Nick Martin and Nick Dacos, and I was very surprised that Merritt got the medal. Obviously, he was good. Not he's saying he was bad, but it'd be interesting to see on Brownlow Day what the umpires thought of the performances. Because, yeah, I had a thought that Martin and Dacos were a shoo-in for that. So Whitfield was absolutely brilliant and sort of turning around and repaying the faith. They've had 2 scores in the 80s, high 80s, and 2 tons, and this is his biggest score for us yet. He's also a top 7. I think he's the 7th highest averaging defender. Williams, all right. So I held Williams because obviously the Mass news. So I was going to trade Mass. So I was going to trade Williams, and then I ended up trading Mass. And so his BE is now 80. I think, I'm pretty sure, something around that mark. So he's one that you can definitely trade. That's a BE. There it is. Yep, 80. But for me, I'll probably end up holding this week and trade him next week, just because of the way that my trades work out. Obviously, I still haven't moved on Gibcus. I didn't end up doing that last week. I wanted to, but with McAuliffe being out, I didn't. I decided I was going to hold my trade and hold my boost, which I'll probably use to get him out this week. Butters was disappointing, unfortunately. Unfortunately, obviously Rosie as well got injured, but that might result in a bump to Butters scoring, which is good. Sarong 140 was brilliant, and he has another chance to put up a good score this week against Richmond, so that's good. Bont seems to be just unders, just not playing as well as we know he can be, and I know Dogs generally aren't playing as well as they can be. Touk was enormous. Just everywhere the ball was, got a lot of loose ball gets, kicked a goal. He just happens to be... This is his role, right? He's playing a sort of traditional centre. He's not... And he's following the ball, he's playing on the ball. He's not really the go-to number 1 extractor anymore. Obviously, that goes to Matt Rao. So a lot of his balls comes from loose ball gets, uncontested possessions, and his pure work rate around the ground. So very different to... Obviously, he still gets his clearances and things like that, as he does, but not like the Touk of old. So I don't imagine being like a 120 plus average, but I think he can go 115, or maybe somewhere between 110 to 115, and close enough to that sort of top 10 mark that he's going to be a good M8 anyway, but he's definitely no Rao in that regard. I did bring in McRae this week, so I was going to bring in Dawson, and ended up unfortunately saying no to Dawson. And the reality is I just wanted more information on Dawson, and now I have it, and I'm probably not going to bring it in anyway. Such is life. But McRae's going to be good enough. He scored 11 points in the first quarter, and then obviously 68 in the following 3 quarters. So had a slow start with a few clangers, and then turned it around. But we'll see how McRae... I think he'll definitely be a top 6 forward. So I'm not really too upset with the 79. But it was actually kind of a good salvage score in the end of the day. Roberts with an 80. I think he's probably got one more week of cash gen. If you look at his projections, I think after next week it looks like he levels out. So his BE this week's 37, then up to 75 next week, based on a score of projected score 94. Right. So if he goes say 80 to 90 or something like that, he's literally going to be topped out in cash and roughly about 430k. So I'm probably trading him next week, and I will go through a little bit about my trade plans and how it sits and the trade targets that I'm now looking at. Closely copped a bit of a knock in that game to his wrist, I think, and then so subsequently came off the ground. I want to say for about 10, 15 minutes. So 65 was a good salvage score because I thought at one point we're only going to get a 30 out of him. And then he came back on and punched out a 65. So good on him. Will Graham was enormous. Another 11 tackles for him. So that was really good. Reed obviously rested, and I've obviously kept him. I had the VC on Gorn. So that's one of the reasons why I had a good week. And I suppose the other thing is Tim English. So with Grundy having a subpar game, I think Meek was only a soft ton. Rowan had a really bad game. So the other main ruckman, the two best ruckmen generally were English and Gorn. So, that was probably the biggest difference in my team compared to other people's teams, especially teams in the top 1%. Because I think the other one was Steele. So I don't have Steele. So Steele going 70 is in 80% of the top 1%. Grundy is in about 50% of the top 1%. And so those two alone, even though I don't have Tom Green, which is also I think is about 55% of teams in the top 1%, I managed to, with my Sarong and Miller picks, I managed to make that ground up in my team. Now moving forward, of course, the other one I got him was obviously Garcia. So I traded out, who did I trade out? Massimo. So it's Massimo and Jacob Ware for Garcia and McRae. So Heaney 120 was good. It's Heaney watch this week to see if Parker, it looks like Parker's going to play this week because he was in the VFL on the weekend. So it looks like he'll be back and what sort of impact that has on Heaney's mid-roll. So we wait with bated breath. Flanders could have been more if he could just use the ball properly, which we know he can. And so 105 is a pretty good salvage score considering how badly he used the ball. 119 from 5. This could have been anything. He missed a goal that was a really, really simple set shot, like 35 metres out directly in front. And he handballed a lot, but everything was contested. And so that 120 could have been 140 if he kicked more and kicked accurately, but I got to be happy with a 119. And now looking like a genuine keeper. In fact, if you work out for Fife what his true game average is, so take out the sub-affected score, which probably would have been close to a ton anyway, his actual adjusted average is 93, which puts him at, I think it's 93.8, about the 9th ranked forward right now. And that's including 5 key forwards in that mark, which obviously isn't going to happen. So, Fife is definitely one that you could call a keeper these days now. One that I'm not calling a keeper at the moment is Tom Powell. So I've completely flipped on my Tom Powell perspective. Powell now does not look like a keeper because his CBAs have dropped through the absolute floor. And he was played mainly out of the forward line this week and only had 5 CBAs. So what do we do with Tom Powell? Is it a hold or a keep? So there's a few different perspectives on this. And quite frankly, I'm leaning hard towards trading for a few reasons. First of all, he's in a large amount of teams. So let's go check on how many teams he is. So this is sort of a negative anti-potting him, essentially. So if we go over here into the Supercoach Plus... Oh, wait, no, that's not what we want. Top 1%. So I'm trying to gain ground here on the top 1%, right? So if you have a look at ownership percentage, where's Tom Powell? Tom Powell. So 44. So he has already... In this round so far, 30% of the top 1% have traded him out. That is incredible. So he was in 74% of 1% teams, and now 30% have traded him out. So you're negative potting against the 44%, and these guys are trying to catch up, and I'm one of those guys, right? So a few reasons. First of all, Phillips, they changed their mid-mix completely. Simpkins increased in CBAs and has gradually increased. Phillips has been in there as well. He was then subbed, had a shit game. They moved Sheasel into that midfield mix as well in the last quarter once they subbed out. Who did they sub out? I can't even remember. But Fisher came on and went into the back line. I can't remember exactly who they subbed out. But all of this is to say that there are enough red flags for a guy that is already topped out in price. So he lost 10k in the week. Now has a really high break even, and you're at risk here of losing the money he's made. So he's made 100k as of now. So right now, he's like a mid-pricer that you've made some money on. And if you just say, look, he's not going to be a keeper, you call it quits, you make your money, you bank your cash, and you see you later, right? If he turns it around, if North stabilise their mid-mix, then you might be able to pick him up 50k cheaper, right? So if you look at his projected scores, and you can't read too much into this because it's all role dependent, right? But St Kilda projected 71, Gold Coast 76, 62 against Essendon. Like, I don't know what he's going to be able to score if he's in a forward role where he just had a 49 with a goal, right? Not great. But over the next 3 weeks, he's set to lose, 37k, and be down around the mid to high 300s, 376k. So there's 40k right there. Now, I don't necessarily want to risk that happening in my team. BE of, you got to remember, BE of 115. If he goes another, say, 50 score, that's going to be mental. He will drop even more cash. It'll be 30k or something in the first week. So you then don't have an option. So if you don't trade him this week, you do not have an option. Basically, what it would mean is you sort of resign to the fact that you're keeping him, and you're saying they're going to turn it around, and you have to put your trust in North Melbourne, who haven't shown the ability to have a steady midfield mix the entire season so far, and trust that Tom Powell's just magically going to turn around. Now, this is also a situation where in my team, and if I look at my guys that I've got, I obviously brought in McRae last week. He's sitting in my midfield. I've got Harley Reid on the bench in midfield as well. I've got two guys that are on-field forward scorers that can quite easily come in and replace a Tom Powell. Now, there are other teams where they're playing, say, a Wilson or a Garcia on field, or two or three of these guys, and then it starts to get a little bit iffy. I'm very confident in the ability of Comben and Darcy's on-field rookie scorers, and so for me, this makes sense because I can actually take him off without impacting too much. So, for example, moving Harley Reid forward, bang, he's on the bench anyway, doesn't impact my midfield mix. I upgrade a midfield position, and then I can move Will Graham to the pine as well. So I'm not as hindered as others are, and so there's almost more reasons for me to trade than not. And when you have a look at my finished team and the rookies that I have on field, you'll see that there's no real worrying. I'm not worried about like rookie scoring, or I'm not stressing about it, or death riding other rookies or anything like that. And I'll go through a little bit about cash gen later when we talk about trades. But so for my team, it makes more sense to trade him than not. There are team specifics specifically that I would suggest probably not for them, because they're not in a position. Either they've spent too many trades on the wrong premiums, traded poor rookies in, or don't have any cash in, or whatever. They should be the teams that are trying to wish for a turnaround, because otherwise what will happen is you trade him out, and you sideways trade him, you don't get the right person in. You're playing another poor rookie on field, you're losing 30 points per game on that, you might be gaining 30 points elsewhere, but ipso facto you end up losing overall. So be wary of what your team is before you make that decision, because I don't think it's just as easy to say Tom Powell definitely trade or Tom Powell definitely keep. So just keep an eye on that. Darcy is an 88 is pretty awesome. So obviously he's been a bit of a yo-yo. 1 week good, 1 week bad. Maybe this week I should bench him. But he played very, very well, and I look forward to some more scores out of him. And then, of course, Comben. So Comben played well, but he played on Tex Walker. And Tex basically was probably the almost best on ground, I'd say, in that game. If you take out Dawson, who was clearly best on ground before he went off, I think he had like 13 scoring assists or something, or involved in 13 scoring chains, was it? For Tex Walker, kind of dominated him. And it wasn't really a matchup that benefited Comben, and the way that they delivered the ball inside 50 with such ease, because North mids just could not apply pressure through the midfield. Tex Walker, when he gets in his bike and on the lead, is very hard to stop, especially for a guy like Comben, because Comben is he's a strong, tall intercept defender. He wants the ball coming in high and long, and they weren't really doing that too much. They were hitting up leads, whether it be on the logos or inside the 50 or just outside the 50, and he was getting dragged up out of the play where he's most effective behind the ball. Still managed to score a 61 because he can. That's what the nature of interceptors is, that they don't need a lot of touches to score quite well. But I am waiting for a spike game. I'm not trading him out yet. I'm going to hold him for a few weeks, and I'll go through that. Cabin's likely to go this week. B's hit that point, and of course Wilson was very good, but break even at 52, average of 63. Like, you could possibly hold him, possibly trade him. Doesn't really matter. He's not going to make really that much money that it's going to be worth it. And if you have a look at his projected figures, he's making what, 2, 3, 1, 3, 5. Like, he's topped out. So yeah, not too bad. All right, so what to do this week? So this is the week I kind of like. So obviously I'm ranked 280, right? So there's a couple of things to consider when I'm doing this. I could either go really safe, and I'm not going to do that for a start. I could go safe and just bring in the guys that I'm kind of anti-potting at the moment. And so I had planned on bringing in Tom Green. He went 158 on the weekend. And here's why I decided not to go with Tom Green. And obviously there's quite a few reasons for this. First of all, yes, I can afford Tom Green. 579k, 580k. Great price for Tom Green. You're getting a discount on his starting price. He is in a high percentage of teams in the top 1%. So you're removing that anti-pod and then adding him to your midfield mix. But obviously his break even is 91. Now, technically, you could probably wait a little bit. Yeah, even if he goes 110, he's only going to go up, say 10k. So back to 590, still affordable. But look at his run from here, right? So Sydney this week, then Essendon, who are a good stoppage team at the moment. Bulldogs, who can be hard to score against and cannot be. And then they also have Geelong straight after that, and then their bye. So they've got 4 pretty difficult fixtures right up to the bye. I think I will probably get a larger points bump bringing somebody else in with a better fixture, and then bringing Tom Green in at his bye. Now this is all going to be, I'm going to calculate this on pod round 13 when I bring him in. And just to see what the difference is between getting the person I want versus what it would have been if it was Tom Green, and how much points and how much cash that has saved me. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to get Tom Green for 600k or under at his bye in round 12. Now, if that doesn't prove to be the case, so be it. I'm the worst in the world. But I've been pretty good with that so far. There are elements to this. Tom Green could be fixture-proof the way that he plays his football, right? That means that on any given day, he's either going to pump out a good score or a shit score. That's and it's not really conducive of where or when he's playing or who he's playing. And there are elements to that as well. But I'm of the affirmative. Part of this is the bye, so I'm definitely going to get a little bump anyway, in that week. And after trading out Powell, I even have one less in that group. So really, it's just Sheasel, Whitfield in the back, and obviously I won't have Green. I'll probably be trading Roberts, but I'll likely have Heaney, right? So those are the guys that I'll have, and most people are going to have Sheasel, Heaney, and Green. So I'm having Whitfield. I've already got Whitfield, so I was actually running probably one more premium than most in that line. So it's just an important factor to consider when looking at your trade-ins at this point. So first thing first, I'm actually looking at correcting Gibcus finally. So I think it's time. I don't have anything else, other pressing issues. I can still upgrade. So is Powell an upgrade? I think it is based on who you're going to, right? So if let's say best case scenario for Powell is that he averages 95. I think that's realistically best case scenario. I'm bringing in a guy that I think can go 120 this year. So there's a 25 points per game upgrade, right? So if I was doing, say, Darcy to, who knows? Who else is averaging, say, 95 in the forward line? There's not many. But let's say I was getting Darcy up. I'm getting a 20 points per game increase in output. So Powell up to 25 is actually a large increase on my output, right? And that's my estimation. It's obviously not proven or fact. It's just it's an opinion that I've got right now. So trading Tom Powell out and Gibcus, and the other one is Cadman. Cadman's he's topped out. Don't really need to hold him. He's probably the only one that is really ready to go of the guys. A lot of the other guys that I have topped out in cash gen. So if you look at Sorry, they haven't topped out yet. So Darcy Wilson now, he's got. I'm gonna have to do this again, aren't I? No. He's got a break even of 0, up to 278k, and he's got a couple more weeks against North and Hawthorn and Freo over the next 3 weeks to really make some decent money. And it looks like he'll probably top out about, if at 60s, he's going to top out about 320k ish, which is pretty good, right? I didn't expect that from him. That's a 200,000 cash gain on that individual player. So guys like Wilson, Darcy's obviously going to get to roughly 350k, given that score. Comben, I'm confident he can get to about 320, 330 as well. Obviously, we've already got Harley Reid. I'm considering a keeper at this point based on his current scoring profile. Williams, he got to 330. He might make a little bit more, but I'm pretty confident that's probably about where he is. Will Graham looks like one that he'll make over 300k as well, maybe 330, 340. Closey probably gets to 350, maybe even up to 400, depending on what he can score. And of course, Roberts up to 430k. So of the rookies that I've got that I'm going to be trading out at some point, there is quite a large amount of cash there, to the point where most premiums you can bring in for 550 to 600k without any repercussions, from one down, one up, which is unheard of. So the cash gen that we've had this year is really, really good. Other ones that are obviously, I've got Jai Clark. He might even come back in this week because obviously Dangerfield done a hammy. He's out for another 4 to 6. So there could be another spot for him, even if it's a sub. Hopefully not, but otherwise he's just dead cash on the bench. Garcia, let's see how he goes. Jack Higgins was out 3 weeks with that suspension, so he might hold his spot. Roll's not amazing, but who knows? Hopefully we can get Hoare in as well. And then that'll be good, yeah. Now, bringing in. So we've got the 3 outs. The 3 ins are pretty easy. So first and foremost, we need to get Sweet in. Now to do that, I'm going to put Livingston into the forward line, and that's going to allow me to do some loophole options moving forward. So first one is Sweet. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Obviously, he's the number 1 rookie this week, guys. If you don't have him, work out a way to get him. So jump Sweet in there. Now I need another rookie here. I'm going to go with Garcia. Now Rogers is the other one. I don't think you can really split the two. I'm splitting the two based on price. Part of the reason is I need to go Garcia because of I don't have enough money to go to Rogers. Now, if I had another 20k, would I go to Rogers? Maybe. I think that there's pros and cons for both. So Garcia has the better break even because he's had 2 back-to-back decent weeks, whereas Rogers had that 28-year price cycle from last week. That will roll out after next week, so his BE should kick up next week, or kick down, I should say. What I saw of Rogers, his performance was fantastic. Is his job security in question? I don't know. I think Dimmer likes him, that's for sure. And there's been a few articles about how much he really likes and rates Rogers. But Graham, is averaging 8 tackles a week. Obviously, Closey's just absolutely been phenomenal. Sexton was shithouse, but classic Sexton. Sorry, not Sexton. Atkins, same. So I don't know where it stands in terms of his job security or his sub risk. Often forwards are higher sub risk than other positions, but who knows where that really sits. I don't think we're really going to know. The thing with Garcia as well, so job security, there's the whole Bevo factor. Let's put that out there. But they also had Cody Waitman went down, obviously, with I want to say, dislocated elbow, I think, and they're having surgery. So he's going to be out 5 to 6 weeks. So there is definitely a spot there for Garcia if he wants to hold it. Even with Libba coming back, and maybe even with Sanders coming back, there's still some space there. So I think a guy like Garcia, he's averaging like 40 touches and 2 goals in the VFL this year so far, has performed well in back-to-back weeks. I think he's bought a bit of job security as well. So look, who's going to be it? I don't know. I couldn't tell you who the better pick is. All I know is that it fits better for my team at the moment. It could be one to haunt me, but not going that way or not correcting Gibcus and not getting maximum value, but it is what it is, and you've got to live with the decisions that you make, and you can't have them all. That's the other thing. Now, so due to popular demand, I'm actually going with Zach Merritt. I've talked about him quite a bit. And to do that, I've got to move Graham back. And look, I know he's 640k. He's expensive. He's not his top price. I think he topped out at 666, so you're saving at 26k. It's fixture related. I've talked about his fixture. Let's go through it. So Zach Merritt's fixture this week, he has obviously. Maybe we don't have anything. Classic. Anytime I'm recording Supercoach, right? Is that what we're doing? Let's complete the trades first. All right. Let's push that through. Eventually. All right, there we go. So, look at that, straight into M1. So looking at his fixture, here's the first thing. So obviously West Coast, GWS isn't great, but then North. So West Coast, two of the next three of the next four are arguably the best midfield matchups you can get. West Coast, North, and Richmond. So that's there. Gold Coast obviously can be difficult, but it's still Gold Coast. Carlton are difficult, and then it's back to West Coast. So he has four of the easiest matchups in the next, 7 weeks that you can have for a midfielder. Geelong's not great, but Collingwood's quite easy. Not great, easy, but can clamp, easy, then into the Gold Coast. And then finishes off with Sydney and Brisbane. Now, Brisbane actually quite easy to score against. So over these, right up until the bye, I think this is the time when he goes on this heater, where Merritt starts scoring 130 plus every single week and makes himself unattainable at the bye. Now, usually he's a back-end specialist. So what I mean by that is he scores more on the back end of the season than the front end. I'm not sure why that is. It just historically has been that. Whether that's fixture-related, I'm not sure. But he's the guy that I'm probably not going to be able to afford at his buy because he's going to be too expensive. So I don't mind bringing in Merritt. Now, the other thing with Merritt, of course, is his ownership percentage. So if I'm trying to hedge against, say, the top 1%, I think he's only in about 15% of teams. Let's have a look at this. 11% of teams. And if we went to the top 1%, let's have a look at his ownership there. So remember, I'm hedging against Green for until the buys, who is in 80% of teams now, which is crazy. So he's gone up 25%. So a lot of people are jumping on that. So there's my hedge right there. I'm versing Zach Merritt with 3 out of the next 4 against probably the easiest matchups that you can have, versus Tom Green with 3 of the 4 hardest matchups that you can have. So, again, we'll reevaluate this at the buy, but I think in that time, he might even be able to put up, say, 80 to 100 points on him in 3 to 4 weeks. That's what I'm thinking. Let's look, that's not guaranteed. It's all opinion. Let's get Zachy Merritt in here to see what his ownership percentage is, and 22.9. So he's actually going up 6.4% this round. He was at about 15% last time I checked. So, yeah, definitely a hedge. Again, team dependent. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. It is what I'm doing though, and that looks to be good. Now, looking at my team moving forward. So this week you can actually. I don't need to do that. So you can loophole. Pretty sure you can actually loophole Zach Williams with Graham. Let me just double check. So when do Melbourne play? And this is all dependent on whether Hawke plays or not. Yeah, so they play on the Friday night. So I can probably loop him with Graham, which is nice. Obviously, we need to move Harley Reid on field. So let's do that. Let's put Wilson in midfield. Livingston off to the bench. All right, now I've still got McRae in midfield there. That's fine. Doesn't really matter who's on there. Garcia, when do the Dogs play? All right, so here's what you do. You can actually loophole Charlie Comben. Actually, with the Saints game. So technically you can actually do that. Look, why not? There's a chance he might get injured or something like that. Probably better to do it than not do it, and it's locked in there. Let's quickly switch these guys over, just so there's Tim English is on the field. And then, of course, in midfield there, if Jai Clark's not named, I could probably even loophole Wilson. Yep, I can Wilson with Closey, who plays in the last game, yeah. So, look, I probably will take Closey's score, but again, worth doing. So I've got the opportunity to essentially run 3 loopholes in my team. Cash gen, as I said, I can pick up guys from 550 to 600k for the next 4 weeks. And here's my trade plan from here. So next week will likely be bringing in Track. So Christian Petrarca, let's bring him up. I think he's got very high 188, I want to say BE. Let's have a look. 188, yep. Projected score 116 and dropping 33k, which puts him at 560k next week. Now you could wait another week on him, but 560k is fine enough for me. The thing with Petrarca that I've looked at is his fixture from round 10. So this week they've got Geelong, next week Carlton, and then West Coast, St Kilda, Freo, Collingwood, North. That game stretch there, that 5-game run is insane. Brisbane also giving up points to mids, and then at West Coast again. So that sort of 8-game stretch, even if you want to go all the way down to Freo, is absolutely amazing for him. And so it's the same with Oliver, of course. And I am still looking at him, but with Petrarca at 560k, I may as well go that direction. I'm probably not going to load up on both until after their bye. So if I'm getting Oliver, it will be after the bye. And the reason for that is now by the round 14 bye. So Merritt has that bye, and so does Touk Miller. And if I get Track, that's 3 midfielders. I don't want to overload it with 4. So that's just something to consider when you're making your trades. So Petrarca for 560k next week. Obviously, I can get there a few different ways. The likely scenario is obviously Zach Williams is one of those trade outs. And then it's whoever, every week there's some sort of rookie that sort of bottoms out or out of nowhere. It could be a Darcy, it could be a Combin. One of those guys should allow me to get there. All I really need, if Williams sort of holds his price here at 335, a 300k player. No, we'll need to be 350k, right? So of those in my team, that sort of cancels out these guys. It might even be Roberts next week as he looks to a topped out cash. And then that gives these guys another week to generate more cash, because the following week, or I might do triple down, but depends on what I've got in my team, right? The following week, so after Tracker that week, it is Luke Ryan time. There is another reason for that. So a lot of the trade-ins, guys, and this is sort of where I consider myself either overthinking it, or I'm having a good year and it's because I'm making good decisions and I keep making good decisions. I'm not sure what it is, all right? So just try to listen to hear me out. There is a method to the madness. So Luke Ryan, 628k now, also has a high break even, 165. Likely to, look, let's say he goes 117, goes down 21k, then his break even will drop. I don't want him for 2 weeks because I can't afford him. I need to get Track next week and try and capitalize on that. But I'm hoping that in 2 weeks' time he's available at about 600k. That would be ideal. And it's because of this. Now, Richmond obviously can be scored against, so there's a consideration, right? But after Sydney, he plays St Kilda. And he's already had 2 150s in the last 2 years against them. And St Kilda are massively leaking points to designated kickers on the opposition team. This is the game that I must have Luke Ryan for. And it's why I'm now no longer looking at Tom Stewart. So I was looking at Tom Stewart filling out this last spot. Now I'm definitely wanting Luke Ryan there. And I think I've got enough money to be able to do it. So why wouldn't I? So I'll probably use my last boost in getting Ryan in before I start targeting those last round of mids. So that's an important consideration. Now, after the St Kilda game, Collingwood love leaking points to defenders. I don't think Melbourne do much. Bulldogs have in the past. And then it's just Luke Ryan, right? Like this is what he does. Still has games, another game against Richmond, another game against West Coast, a game against Hawthorn. These guys generally are going to be a bit tougher. The Geelong, GWS, Port in the last 3, but I'm getting him on because I think that he is the clear number one right now, or D1, or close to it. And he's the only one that I have in that line that is really hurting me on a weekly basis. So, fortunately, he's not really highly owned in the top 1% at the moment, but I think that will change in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, bringing in Petraka, bringing in Ryan, those are my next two upgrades. And the other one that I want in round 10 is... Oh, I can't remember. Bringing in him and Ryan. I cannot for the life of me remember which one it is. Oh, well, I might be only looking at the initial period rather than everything. But they're definitely... I'm sure there was another one that I was looking at. Because track here... I can't remember. Obviously, Tom Green's one that I'm getting. I just can't remember who the last one that I was getting is. Green's definitely one of them. I mean, if I could pick him up in 3 weeks at a really good price, then maybe, but I'm probably waiting until he's buy now. That is it, guys. Thank you for this long-winded. Apologies about the video quality, the lighting, the audio, the everything. But I wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. And share in my glory. I revel in it. No, kidding. Shout out to all the content creators out there that are giving it a crack this year. And it's been a fun year so far. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Cheers, guys. Bye.